Hello, friends. Good morning, good afternoon, actually. It's afternoon now. My name is Miss Courtney. I am one of our youth librarians at Kent District Library. I work at our Gaines Township and our Kentwood branches. Um, Welcome to KDL Curiosity Lab Online, Ask the STEAM Expert, where we talk to local STEAM experts in Kent County about what their job is, how they got started on their job, and other things that we might not know about their job and where they work. So this is my last one for this season. We are not doing any more in spring because we are open and a little bit busier in the branch. But there are lots of other streaming programs that you can watch. We have a show on Thursday afternoons at 4:30 called Hodgepodge, which is for teens. It's hosted by my good friends Miss Monica and Miss Claire, where they talk about books, games, they have challenges. You get to hear some book talks. You'll see my face as well as a few other KDL librarians on there as well. We also have story time streaming in the morning and a couple at night for my younger friends. For my older friends, we have Miss Penny from our new Ada branch. She does a What We're Reading on Tuesday nights. So if you need some book recommendations, you can check out her thing. So lots of fun things. And of course, even though there's 1.5 feet of snow outside, summer is coming. So stay tuned for all of that programs that we're offering in the summertime right here from the comfort of your own home. So without further ado, I have Miss Wendy Overbeck. She works at the Frederick Meyer Gardens. I'm going to give a little intro and then I'm going to add Wendy to the stream so she can tell us more about her job. So Wendy is a graduate of Michigan State University, where she got her Bachelor's of Science in Zoology with a concentration in zoo and aquarium science and a specialization in environmental studies, which is a lot. She's always been interested in natural science, particularly the relationships between humans, plants, insects, and animals. She has a lot of appreciation for those connections, and that's how she got started with a job in college at the Michigan State University Botany Butterfly Greenhouse. She continued to work there to gain experience after college with the Michigan Civilian Conservation Corps through the Michigan Department of Natural Resources. So she's done a lot. And then as an animal keeper at John Ball Zoo, which is of course, our local zoo, before starting at the gardens 17 years ago. So she's been at the gardens for quite some time, and I'm sure she's gained lots of wisdom and knowledge that she can share with us. She has 2 young boys, they're 10 and 11, and she also lives on a small hobby farm with horses, a pony, goats, chickens, cats, dogs, and a vegetable garden. So lots of things about Miss Wendy. So let's welcome her to the stream. Hello, Miss Wendy. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
Awesome. So you have been at the gardens for a really long time, which is great. We love the gardens. We had Laureen last time talk about the art side of the gardens. So it's really cool for us to have you to tell us more about the garden part of the gardens. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about what led you to be interested in studying zoology when you were younger? Did you know that you wanted to work in science in a zoo? Kind of bring us through your journey to where you are now.
Yeah, well, as you mentioned, it's been a long one, but it started when I was quite young. As kids, we always spent our summers outside playing. In the wintertime, we were outside ice skating, sledding, that kind of thing. Always something to do outside, and I always really appreciated being able to do that, and had a lot of pets growing up, so that sparked my love for animals. I'm not sure how much my mom appreciated all the things I brought home, but um, and having grown up being exposed to all of that, I knew that that's what I wanted to continue to be involved with. Anything that would get me outside, keep my hands dirty, work with animals, always been of great interest to me. On the sciencey side of things, I always really appreciated learning about connections. So, things, a really easy example is butterflies and host plants. And that's pertinent right now because at the gardens, you can see that happening in the seasonal display where we have our monarch display. When I was very little, one of my favorite activities with my grandma was going out and looking for monarch caterpillars, which we used to be able to find very easily at her place. And I continue to do that with my boys today. We have a large section of what would normally be a mowed yard that I do not mow so that the milkweed will grow. And every year we find monarch caterpillars out there still. So it's just one of those things that, I've always been interested in and so on. So when it came time to go to school and choose a major, I thought zoology was a good place to start because the basis for that kind of covers a lot of the natural sciences and would give me some options as I honed in on exactly what I wanted to do, as far as if I wanted to take that a medical route and do veterinary, or if I wanted to steer that more toward another type of specialization. While I was going to school, I needed some money, so I needed a job, right? So I ended up actually getting a job by coincidence at the botany greenhouses at MSU. And then that's where things really took off for me because that's where I got to experience nature in a more of a learning environment, I guess you could say. While I'm working in there, botany classes were coming through and I'm overhearing, professors teaching and learning about plant relationships and all of that. And that just really, stuck with me as well. So you take, the plants and the animals and you mix that all together and graduate college. And then it's like, okay, now what do I do with all of this? Right. So the biggest thing for me was getting some experience. Working with the Michigan Civilian Conservation Corps, that got me back outside in nature year round, which was fantastic. And then moving on from there, I thought I'd, better test out the zoology degree that I had. So I worked at the John Ball Zoo for a while doing that, which I very much appreciated and absolutely loved. But at the time, there was just some scheduling conflicts and so on, and I needed to find a better fit for myself. So I saw an ad for open position at the gardens and knew I would love to get back in the greenhouses again. So that's how I ended up where I am today.
Awesome. So what you're telling me though is when I don't mow my lawn in the summertime, I can tell my neighbor that it's for the butterflies. Right. That's what I'm hearing. That's what I heard from that.
That's what I tell my neighbors.
Great. Wow. You have so much experience. I love that you started like playing outside as a kid. I think this last summer with, a lot of things being different, I hope that a lot of kids maybe were able to go outside more than they normally would have in the summertime. And so, and maybe that sparked some interest. So I am curious as to, which is great because this is the Curiosity Lab. Can you talk more about what your specific job is at the garden? So what are the things that you're responsible for maintaining or overseeing and stuff like that? Like what's your biggest responsibility at the gardens?
Yeah, so my position at the gardens has evolved over time. When I started there, I was originally in charge of taking care of the production greenhouses, seasonal display, carnivorous display, bonsai collection, and then also assisted in the conservatory, which is the really big tropical greenhouse with watering and the butterfly exhibition. That involved just a lot of plant care, a lot of planning for exhibitions, the seasonal display, planning for the seasonal change outs and so on, and also kept my hands in butterflies, which I appreciated very much. One of my favorite things there, of course. And then from there, I moved into a management position, and that got me more in the role of where I focused more on the planning side of things, making sure that everybody that was on my staff had what they needed to do their job. Having worked in the position before, I feel like that gave me a really good understanding of what their needs were as my staff, and hopefully I'm able to convey that as a manager. And then more recently, my position was adjusted a bit more, and I took on the title of Senior Horticulture Manager, which gave me more responsibilities in the fiscal part of our department. So keeping track of orders for all of our exhibitions, our annual plant orders. As you might imagine, we order hundreds of thousands of plants a year. They have to go into garden spaces across the grounds, and we need to design, plan, and order every single individual plant, know where it's coming from, know where it's going to, and make sure that everything is accounted for. So that is a really big part of my job now, as well as where butterflies are concerned. I'm the permit holder for our exotic insect importation. So basically what that means is I just have to make sure that all of our containment practices are being followed. And containment happens at the gardens because we host a butterfly exhibition that consists of tropical non-native butterflies, which is a good fit for the tropical conservatory. Because these are non-native butterflies, we have to follow certain rules that are set in place by the USDA. And I make sure that those rules are followed, that everybody's trained to understand what those rules are and what we need to do to achieve that. And then I also, oversee making sure that we have what we need to run a fantastic butterfly exhibition.
Right. That makes a lot of sense why when you leave the butterfly exhibit, you have to check to make sure that there are no butterflies leaving with you. So what are some of your, and also to people who are watching, if you have any questions for Wendy, please leave them in the comments. I will see them and I will ask your curious questions. But Wendy, what are some of your favorite either butterflies or other insects or plants that are currently at the garden or will be at the garden this spring, summer season? What are some of your favorites?
Well, as far as butterflies go, that's a hot topic right now because our butterfly exhibition opens on March 1st, which is really exciting. So we are in the process of getting in pupae as we speak and stocking the conservatory with butterflies. I have so many favorites for different reasons, but when it comes to flight pattern, I really like what are called the tree nymphs. And they're big, kind of a pale yellow color with lots of lacy veination on their wings. And the way that they fly around the conservatory is just very relaxed and calm, and they just kind of flutter about. They never seem like they're in a hurry to go anywhere. And so I really appreciate that about them. The blue morphos, of course, are a favorite. They're a great performer, and I love the way that they surprise people when they open up their wings and there's that flash of blue. They almost always rest with their wings closed, and when they do that, they're quite camouflaged. So people are very surprised that when that butterfly goes to fly away, that bright lightning blue color that flashes. I just love the way that translates and brings people in and makes them excited about the butterflies. And then for patterns on the wings, I really like the lacewing butterflies. You have to look close, but the patterns are very, very intricate, and there's lots of coloring on those as well. So, and then I love the moths because they're so huge and cool. The atlas moths, they're just really big. Fat bodies, and their antennae are fuzzy, and they're just so cute. So I like lots of different ones for lots of different reasons. Hard to pick a favorite.
I did like the wrong thing. I mean, everyone always asks, I work in a library, what's your favorite book? And I'm like, well, I like this book for this reason and this book for this. So I did what people do to me, to you. Speaking of butterflies and moths, so something that I've always been curious about and have learned a little bit about as I've gotten older, what is the biggest difference between a butterfly and a moth? Because I think a lot of people think, ew, moths, and oh, butterflies, but I feel like there are some pretty moths too in the world. So what are some differences and similarities between those?
That's an excellent question. There's a lot of both differences and similarities. So, moths, as people know, are primarily active at night, and butterflies are primarily active during the day. Uh, and I say primarily, keep in mind that there are hundreds of thousands of species of moths and butterflies in the world, and there are exceptions to almost every rule. But in general, moths also, if you look closely, will have very fuzzy, furry antennae that come off their heads. That's used for being able to pick up pheromones and to find each other for mating. Where butterflies, they have more of like club antenna, where it's very thin and then kind of has like a little ball on the end of it. Let's see, one of the biggest ones, butterflies form a chrysalis, moths form a cocoon, which is one of those big things that, you don't really think about too much until you look at them and you see that the butterfly chrysalids are, while they come in many different shapes, sizes, colors, they're all smooth on the outside, where the moth cocoons all look kind of rough or furry.
So what you're saying is Eric Carle was wrong and the caterpillar turned into a moth and not a butterfly, is what I'm hearing as well.
Correct. I have that book for my children, and I actually went through and crossed out the incorrect parts and wrote in the proper. So I crossed out cocoon and wrote in chrysalis so that it still is a butterfly at the end. But I wanted to make sure, of course, that they knew the difference.
Yes, don't do that in a library book though, friends. We'll just pretend like it's the right word. It's fine. But yeah, that's something that I remember learning in it was probably like some biology class that I had to take. Because you'd learn. I remember learning when I was younger, it was a cocoon. And then as I got older, I was suddenly like, wait a minute, now it's saying chrysalis. Like, are they the same? Are they different? They're clearly different things. I know that now. But interesting. What about plants? What are some of your favorite plants? Especially in the carnivorous display. Do you have any favorite plants in that greenhouse, I guess?
Yeah, that helps narrow it down a little bit because, like my butterfly answer, I've got lots of different plants for lots of different reasons in all the different seasons. So, but the carnivorous plant house it's really incredible, the adaptations that you see in there. One of my personal favorites are the fanged monkey pot. So it's a pitcher plant that has what looks like fangs that hang down. I mean, they're like two little spikes that hang down over the pitcher, and those spikes secrete nectar that is attractive to like ants and other bugs looking, for something sweet to eat. But because it comes out of these very fine points, if there's one false move and the insect slips while it's trying to get to the nectar in this precarious position, it will fall into the pitcher. And inside the pitcher is where liquid collects, and there are very, very tiny hairs that point downward and make it impossible for the bugs to crawl out. And it's also where the plant secretes digestive enzymes to be able to absorb the nutrients that the insects provide for it. These adaptations came because these plants grow in places where they're not getting their nutrients from the soil, like a lot of other plants do. So they have evolved to get it in different ways, and those different ways are by capturing insects.
I never made that connection. So I have my bachelor's degree is in integrated science for education. And I never made that connection that like Venus flytraps, for example, which is like the most common carnivorous plant. It never occurred to me that it was eating these flies because it wasn't getting what it needed from the soil. I was like, oh, it's just one of those weird things that just happens. But that makes so much sense that it's doing it because it needs the nutrients, not just because it's this evil plant that I've personified in my mind and in my imagination. So that's good to know as well. So Wendy have asked, oh, we have the lovely Miss Jackie. Hi, Miss Jackie. Thank you for watching. She's one of our old librarians who left us last year, but she has some questions. So, and I know she's a very avid visitor of the gardens. So these have probably been questions she's had for a while. Um, so she's asking if the birds in the tropical area leave the butterflies alone or do they eat them? And she's heard that sometimes frogs arrive in the gardens with plants, and do they live long as well? So do the birds eat the butterflies, and then do the frogs that come in with the plants survive?
Yeah, I'm gonna crisscross my answers for that a little bit, and you'll see why here in a second. So for the birds in the conservatory, we intentionally stock the conservatory with tropical birds that are seed eaters primarily, and therefore, when we have our butterfly exhibit, they want to eat seeds, they want to eat fruit, they don't really care about the butterflies. Because if we didn't do that, you're absolutely right. Being, like capturing the birds and putting them in a holding place and so on during the butterfly exhibition, it just wouldn't be very efficient. And I don't think the birds would like it very much either. So, so we choose seed-eating birds to go in the conservatory so that we don't have that as an issue. It's a good point. Whenever we consider adding something new to greenhouse space, it's a good example of having to make considerations for everything that goes on in there year round and how those things are going to be connected. With the frog question, we do get occasionally, we get plants in from different growers from around the United States, and occasionally we will get frogs that have hitchhiked their way up here, and they put them in the conservatory. We get tree frogs pretty often. I couldn't tell you how long they live because we don't have a real good way of tracking that. We do have some that we'll see, like, every day we'll see, like a certain one on a certain tree, and they kind of, become familiar to us. But as you probably know, frogs do eat insects, and every once in a while we'll have a tree frog or a toad that will get very, very fat during the butterfly exhibition.
Oh, that's sad. But I mean, good for those frogs for hanging on there, I guess. If you have any other questions, again, leave them in the comments. Wendy, I told you I was going to ask this question. Now, I've asked everyone else. What is a book character or TV, some sort of fictional character that has a job or is just most similar to you in what you do day to day? So maybe not necessarily your job exactly, but the type of things you do in your field of in your profession.
Well, I thought about that quite a bit, and what I kept coming back to was a character in a book who I just really related to overall. In my experience, both growing up and as a horticulturist. And that character, her name is Elnora, and she was the main character in the book, A Girl of the Limberlost, which is an older book, been around for quite a while. I believe my grandma read it when she was younger as well. That's kind of how I ended up finding out about it. And the reason that I really connected with that character is because her life as a child, she was basically in the woods every day and just, hanging out and doing her thing. But as she was doing that, she was also making a lot of observations. And she ended up turning those observations into something that she could do to help her to make money to be able to go to school. So what she ended up doing is she lived in where she lived, she would collect moths for which used to be a really big thing, like collecting insects was something that people would pay a lot of money for to be able to complete collections and so on. So in this book, she knows where to understands the behaviors of the moths and in the woods around her, and is able to collect them and then sell these moths for her collection so that she can afford to be able to go to school. I relate to that because she used something that to her was just, yeah, just normal outside, who doesn't know this, kind of information. It was very familiar to her, very unique to other people, so they were willing, to purchase her findings. But then also in the book, education was very important to her. That was what drove her to sell the collections, was so that she could support herself and um, become educated, which for her at the time wasn't going to be a possibility otherwise. So I just really appreciated that about her.
That's a really great story. Can't guarantee that we have this book in our collection anymore, but you can always check Melcat if that sounds like something that you who are watching would like to read. So Wendy, do you have any advice for any of our young viewers that think that your job sounds really interesting, but just aren't sure if it's something they really want to do or they have a knack for? What's something they could do, this summer that might prepare them if this is a career path they want to take?
Experience. That's the biggest thing. Don't be afraid to go out and, you don't need that glamorous job for your first time job. A lot of times the most understanding for something and the way things work is those very basic positions. So keep those in mind. If you're around that age and looking for something for the summer. And then other things are volunteering different places. That really can get you a lot of exposure as far as the hands-on and knowing what the actual work involved is, whether that's volunteering at the gardens or, in some other, like at an animal shelter or a rescue or something like that. And then otherwise, checking out books at the library and then using those books to go around and identify things. One of my favorite things to do when I take my boys on vacation is we decide each of them chooses a subject for that week. And one of it, for example, it might be trees. So what we'll do is we'll go get some tree identification books, and then on our hikes, we'll see how many we can find. Another or it might be mammals or something like that, and there are tracks, and then take those books out with you, use the field guides, and go out and see what you can match up. We have a lot of fun doing that, and we've learned a lot because you have the book there right with you, and you can read about exactly what you're seeing. So we have a lot of fun doing that. I would like to hope other people would as well.
That is a great idea. I plan on this summer, personally, I plan on this summer exploring more of the trails before it gets too hot, like it did last summer. And that's a great idea. We have lots of books for big people and little people. I know there are lots of cool bug books because I see them on the shelf all the time, and there are some that have like these beautiful illustrations. So not only are you learning, but you also get to just enjoy the lovely art that is on these pages. Insects are some of the like coolest illustrations that I've seen people do, just because they are so intricate, like you were talking about the different butterflies. Their patterns are just so beautiful. So they make some of the best illustrated books, and it makes it easy when we're doing face outs to find a good bug book in my junior nonfiction section. But Wendy, you said the butterfly exhibit starts on the 1st of March, correct?
That's correct. We officially open March 1 and it runs through April 30th.
Okay. And the gardens are open, right? We just have it's limited capacity, masks are required, and all those types of regulations, correct?
That is correct. And keep an eye on our website. We will be extending some of our hours as well to help be able to accommodate some of those restrictions, giving people more opportunities and more times to come visit the gardens. So we'll be open early on some Sundays, and in April we'll be open late every evening.
Awesome. Yeah, I remember Laureen saying that you guys were going to be having some extended hours. So that's exciting. I've been meaning to get there. So hopefully I will get there to see the butterflies in all their glory. And I can think of and be like, I wonder if Wendy ordered that plant as I'm walking around the gardens. But thank you so much, Wendy, for joining and sharing your knowledge. I definitely learned a lot. I hope whoever is watching also learned a lot. But yeah, this is the last Ask the Expert for now. It could come back, who knows? But make sure you check out all of the things that Kent District Library is doing virtually. Our libraries are also open. So if you would like to come in and check out some books and browse for some books, you are welcome to do that as well. Again, if you're looking for some good bug books, we have a junior nonfiction section dedicated to bugs. We have a section also dedicated to plants as well. Just make sure you have your mask and keep your distance. But with that, I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. Thanks again, Wendy. Hope to see you at the gardens sometime soon.
Thank you.